Hi, welcome to the Indie Wine Podcast. My name is Matt Wood, and this is episode 89. Today I'm talking with Cole Thomas of Madson Wines. Madson was started in 2018, and Cole, along with viticulturists Ken Swagels and Abby Crystal, have been making some amazing wines, primarily from Santa Cruz Mountains fruit. We talk about how the project started, Cole's approach to winemaking, challenges they deal with in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and a whole lot more. A reminder that I have a Patreon at patreon.com/IndieWinePodcast. Link is in the show notes also. If you're enjoying the podcast, any amount to help me keep telling wine stories ad-free and available for everyone is appreciated. It's all run independent and out of pocket. Tell a friend or sharing on social media are great ways to help out too. Here we go. Yeah, so you originally made your way to Santa Cruz for school, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, came up here from Southern California to go to UCSC.
Yeah.
And my one prereq that I wanted was I had to be by the ocean.
Okay.
And so I applied to only schools within a very close proximity to good surf and the ocean. So
Nice. And what were you studying?
I went in for marine biology. I thought I wanted to be a marine biologist, and I quickly found in my chemistry class, it wasn't that I didn't like the chemistry. It was kind of like talking to people and realizing that I would have to be in school for a long time to be successful at it, and I wasn't ready to commit to that. And I heard a lot about, scientists writing grants, and I was like, I don't know if I want to be like so, kind of focused on one thing. I want more of a broader education. So I ended up, I studied economics and then environmental science. So I did two majors.
Okay.
Because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So, yeah, and I loved it. They kind of overlapped. I did a lot of environmental economics and stuff, like energy politics and just, I was really interested in how, the economy, it seems, is inversely related to the quality of the environment. So the more we produce, the more we impact the environment. And so I was like, okay, if I study these two things, I can, potentially learn about, how do we have GDP? How do we produce and make money, but also do it in a way that's responsible and doesn't impact the environment negatively. So yeah.
Any of that prepare you for the wine business?
Absolutely not. No, I would say like in a very like distant way, yes. I think, for us to make wine, we have to, I love making wine, but in order for me to continue making wine, the Madson has to have some amount of money coming in, or else it doesn't make sense. So just like that kind of idea of understanding economics has been helpful for that. And then environmental studies. I did a lot of like agroecology classes, so just looking at the ecology of farm systems. And so I was very much inspired by farming, and I actually did a lot of internships doing, I managed a seed library, so we were saving seeds. Very cool. And up at the university up at UCSC, and we had 300 different varieties of all sorts of different seeds that we cataloged, and we did a bunch of grow outs with the Cassis farm up there, and a lot of kind of gatherings with different local farmers who would save seed, and then we had like seed exchanges.
Nice.
And it was really cool because we had all these varieties of corn and beans and tomatoes that you never see in the grocery store.
As I say, is it mostly things that have come thrived here, I guess, in the local environment?
Yeah, like very much suited for the local environment, and just having a range of different genetics in the farm system is really important for resiliency.
Right.
The big example is the Irish potato famine. One type of potato, one type of fungus just destroyed their entire crop for the year, and a lot of people went hungry. So we're kind of having lots of conversations when we were doing that about, we always see yellow corn, and it grows really well and it grows really fast and it makes big, beautiful ears of corn. But there's so many others out there that we miss. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
What got you interested in wine?
So actually, we did kind of it wasn't a seed exchange, but we did an event, like a food systems learning journey while I was at at UCSC, at Santa Cruz Mountain Vineyard. And so I met Jeff Emery, and then I also met Dennis Hoey of Odonata, because we did 2 different, what we called food system learning journeys. So we did all sorts of like tours around, local producers. We did like Penny's Ice Creamery, and so I was going to all these, where I get to learn about, how ice cream's made, how different crops are grown, and how, wine's made. And so I met Jeff, met Dennis, and I was just enamored by them and their story. Jeff had been making wine since he was 19.
Yeah.
He started for Ken Burnap in '79. Just came up to bottle one day and basically never left. He lived at the winery from, I think, '79 to the late '90s. So he was, and then took over. Yeah. When Ken retired, he bought the brand from Ken and took over the brand and the winery. So it was just an amazing story. And, he kind of went into showing us the equipment, and he was making all these different varieties. He was making Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, Pinot Noir, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cab Franc, Syrah, but all these other Portuguese varieties too. Yeah. And Spanish varieties, Tempranillo and
like
Godello and
the Quinta Cruz.
The Quinta Cruz, label. And I was just like, whoa, and we were tasting them, and I'm like, each one is so unique and different. And yeah, I was just enamored by how you can, like, the smallest difference in like clone and variety has such a wide range of flavors when it's fermented.
Yeah.
So.
I guess that connection is kind of how you started working there eventually?
I was basically a thorn in Jeff's side for like a month and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, I was still in college, and I just kept, I knew nothing about wine, and I wanted to know something about it, so I just kept on showing up, and I'd be like, hey, like, can I move boxes? Can I take out the trash? Can I move barrels? Like, what do you need?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm good. He's like, I'm good. I don't need any help right now. And, eventually did take my number because I kept on showing up.
Okay.
And he texted me or called me one day, and he's like, hey, I have this bottling. It's next week. I need you there at 7 a.m. Can you be there? And I was like, absolutely. So bottled with him the whole day on the bottling truck. That's where I met Ken, my now business partner. Ken was his assistant winemaker at that time, and Ken and I instantly hit it off. Nice. And I was like, he was working in the vineyard a lot for Jeff, because that's really where he loves to be is in the vineyard, I think. And I really wanted to learn about the vines, and I was like, Ken, take me with you. I will do anything you need. Like I just want to be out in the vineyard with you. So I started working in the vineyard with Ken. Cool. And that was like 2013, 2014.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice. So it's kind of like you started working there almost the same way Jeff did.
Totally.
Sort of like just kind of show up and stay. Not obviously you didn't stay quite as long. But.
Yeah, I didn't stay quite as long. No, I did not. But yeah, I did, and I hit it off with Jeff pretty quickly, and I was just really determined to learn something from him. And yeah, I think it was really, I ended up, doing the traveling winemaker, harvest thing, traveling to the southern hemisphere and doing harvests. And, but I would always come up and work for Jeff and in the northern hemisphere for the most part. And so I worked, side by side with Jeff. Ken ended up, going into viticulture, and then I was Jeff's assistant winemaker, and I worked next to him for 5 years, and it was just it was so cool to just work at such a small winery with the owner, founder, winemaker, who had been doing it for so long, because it's just like, work together all the time.
Yeah.
And there's not a team. There's no, like, information's not passing through other people. I just get to ask him all the questions that I can possibly dream of. And so it's just so much that I got to learn from him. And
yeah, probably a cool, like, kind of just like knowledge transfer, like Ken Burnap to Jeff to like just generations.
Totally.
Kind of like passing it down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and the winemaking, changed quite a bit through the different decades as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the 70s and 80s, and up into the 90s, they were doing, 10 punch downs a day on Pinot Noir.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And sometimes more than that.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
And then they would bottle the wines usually after 24 months in barrel.
Okay.
And then they wouldn't release them for another like 3, 4, 5 years, depending on like how the tannins were.
Wow.
So it was pretty different.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough to do when you're starting out, and just the 10 punch downs a day. It's like a totally different style of winemaking.
Totally. Yeah. I was just with Jeff and he, and we were talking about this actually last couple of days ago. And when he took over the winery, and he was no longer living at the winery. He was living like 30 minutes away from the winery. He would finish dinner during harvest and be like, shoot, like I don't want to drive 30 minutes to do this last punch down. And so that's how the punch downs at Santa Cruz Mountain Vineyards started to like slowly dissipate. And so there was less punch downs.
Right.
And he totally thought that he wasn't doing the wine justice. He was like, oh no, I'm not gonna get the extraction.
Only got 8 punch downs today.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Okay.
And he ended up finding that the balance was still there. He could just speed the élevage up. The élevage didn't have to be as long, and the time in bottle didn't have to be as long. So
yeah.
So
did you start making your own wines at Santa Cruz Mountains Vineyard, or like how'd you transition into making your own wines? Yeah.
So Jeff, there's kind of like a family tree in his winery. He's been very like instrumental and gracious to allow so many young people to make wine in their cellar.
Okay.
In his cellar. Ian Brand started his winery.
Oh, really? Okay.
In Jeff's cellar.
Okay.
So the I Brand wines and La Marais and Petit Paysan. And Dennis Hoey of Odonata started his. Dennis was Jeff's first assistant winemaker.
Okay.
And started Odonata in that cellar. And after a couple years of working for Jeff, we kind of had talked about it a little bit, because I really was inspired to have an expression, my own expression, I guess, selfishly in wine. And it kind of happened, the first vintage kind of happened very serendipitously. Ken was farming all these vineyards, and in 2015, I had just gotten back from Australia. I was, it was Friday, I was steaming a bunch of barrels for Jeff, I had some cellar work to do. And Ken calls me at like 6:30 in the morning. He's like, this Chardonnay, it's ripe. It needs to be made. I don't have a winemaker for it. And so I was like, well, he's like, do you want to make it? I was like, I do not want to make it. Nope, don't want to do it. I've got work to do. I think Jeff would not, be excited for me to be making wine in the cellar when I have work to do. So he's like, just call Jeff and ask. And so I call Jeff and he's like, yeah, sure. You can press it here.
Okay.
As long as you get your work done over the weekend, but you can't store the barrels here. And so I call Ken back. I'm like, got the green light. But I don't have anywhere to store it. So I called Barry Jackson from Equinox, who was also working for part-time. And I go, Barry, hey, like I'm going to make this Chardonnay, I'm going to press it at Jeff's, but I don't have anywhere to store it. Can I store it at your place? He goes, no problem. And I'm like, also, I don't have any barrels. And he's like, well, you can borrow 2 of mine or 3 of mine, or whatever, whatever it is. And so
That's awesome.
that was 15. That was 2015. We didn't have any licensing. Barry put it under his licensing, was super gracious. He stored it at his place. He tasted the wine 6 months later, and he goes, hey, what are you doing with 50 cases of Chardonnay? And I said, I have no idea. And he's like, why don't I just buy it off you? I'll buy it wholesale off you. I'll sell it in my tasting room. And, we can put like a little thing that says Cole Thomas Selection on the back. And I was like, all right, that sounds good. Yeah. So that was the first little like kind of cash influx.
Yeah.
Or injection, I guess. So I saved the money from selling that wine wholesale to then start farming a really small Chardonnay vineyard called PM Stager.
Okay.
In 2016, and we were able to purchase a little bit of fruit in 2016, and at that time Jeff was like, all right, I feel like you've earned it. You can make wine here legitimately and get your own like permitting and do it
very
on the
cool.
books. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and you're still making some great Santa Cruz Mountains Chardonnay here.
Yeah. So this is what's in the glass is a Ray Vineyard Chardonnay. We started farming this in 2019 and making the wine. It's 1 acre, just outside of like kind of in like the Los Altos Hills area on the inland side of the mountains. So, but it's far enough north that it gets a lot of kind of cool, foggy air coming around from San Francisco. There's also a little bit of a gap. It's called the Windy Hill Gap in the Santa Cruz Mountains. So it's a pretty cold site. I would say it's like the most Chablisian. I hate comparing our wines to the old world, but it's like more of that like fresh, lean, kind of mineral. And it's always that. We make all the shards the same way. Just like a little crush, light pressing, lots of solids to barrel, all native ferment in barrel. So the barrels become very different over the course of the fermentation and then élevage, and like use a lot of lees. So keep the lees as long as possible.
Okay.
Or the wine on the lees. No stirring, but yeah, just on the lees.
Just on the lees.
And then we take a lot of that lees to stainless after its time in barrel.
Okay. Just
to get like a hint of reduction. And we taste the lees before we add it to the stainless steel tank.
Sure.
Because we've gone too far.
Okay. It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
You're farming some fruit in 2016, and was Chardonnay what you wanted to kind of base the winery on at the start, or?
Yeah, I feel like, I got to think back. Well, I love Chardonnay. I think it's such an expressive grape variety. It can be so many different things. And I think the thing that was the most alluring about it is the preconceived notion of what Chardonnay in California is supposed to taste like.
Yeah.
And we're in a very special place in California, as I feel like people are really discovering, especially for Chardonnay. Like what Arno Roberts does with Trout Gulch and Cerritos does with Trout Gulch. I mean, it's like I feel like people are figuring it out. And so we really wanted to make Chardonnay that was bright and fresh and had that like mineral aspect to it. And try and get sub 13%.
Okay.
So it's, it has that kind of like really bright element to it.
Yeah.
And still tastes ripe. And I think, that's I feel like there's this trend to go less ripe with a lot of wines in California. And I think you can do it in certain places. And I think Santa Cruz is one of those places.
Yeah.
So.
You think it's just like the hillsides or kind of that being on the western side of the slope there? Or
yeah. So it's the exposure to the ocean. We have, the Monterey Bay is one of the most productive parts of the ocean on the California coast. There's the deep trench kind of in the middle of the bay, and there's a lot of upwelling. There's a lot of coastal wind, so we get a lot of fog coming in. We get a lot of ocean wind, and then we also have the redwood forest and these ridge lines that are pretty much perpendicular to the prevailing wind.
Okay.
So it slows the wind down, but you get that slow airflow. Okay. And I think that's really important for the way the grapes ripen here. And I think it's really unique because a lot of cool places in California, cool, growing regions are essentially wind tunnels. So they're very windy sites. And so that's very unique to us. And I think we retain a lot of acidity and get ripe flavors. Yeah. At lower potential alcohol than a lot of places in California. But then the soils are really interesting as well. The fault line goes right through the middle of the mountains.
Super cool. Yeah. Super interesting.
Yeah, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
Exactly. 89 was like, but it's really interesting because, there's the Pacific plate and the continental plate. And everything east of the fault line is the continental plate, and it's like shales and, Franciscan complex. And so the soils are completely different than the oceanic, plate, the Pacific plate, which is mostly, marine uplifted seabeds. It's all, kind of sandstone. And I think on the sandstone sites, it's really good for keeping that, like, chalky element in the shards that we have here. So
I guess obviously you between you and Ken, you farm quite a few different vineyards in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and I guess what are some of the challenges you think that are unique to Santa Cruz Mountains as far as farming, or what are some of the things you feel like you need to maybe watch out for?
That's a great question. There are so many things to kind of that make farming here challenging.
Yeah, and I guess especially with your, like, you guys are organic or kind of beyond organic, so I guess challenges like farming in this the style that you guys do. But I'd love to hear some of the challenges you face with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the one of the biggest challenges I think that we face is the vineyards are really spread out, and they're on these kind of crappy roads through the redwoods, and so it takes time to get there, and and it's really hard to get in and out, with trucks and trailers, and getting the fruit in and out is really really challenging. We handpick everything, of course, but then the vineyards are also really steep, so there's blocks that we cannot get a tractor into, and so everything, all the farming is hand done. We hand spray it with a backpack. So that I would say that's a really unique challenge to the Santa Cruz Mountains.
Yeah, someone just like from a practical perspective almost.
Yeah, totally. And then the other part is we're basically taking all the fruit from these small 1 to 4 acre vineyards. And if that wine does well and we sell through it, we're not like, oh, let's contract out a couple more acres and make more of it. Yeah. It's like, that's all there is, which is a blessing and a curse in some ways. But the other piece is the temperature. It's cold here, so we don't typically have to thin any crop because nature does it for us.
Okay.
We're lucky to get, there's vineyards that we get under a ton per acre on.
Oh, yeah.
And we're happy with 2 tons, like 2 tons per acre. I'm like, we did it.
Yeah.
Shatter 23 for us. Like, I talked to Jeffrey Patterson at Mount Eden, and he's like, 23 is the best vintage of my career potentially. And don't quote me on that, but I swear he did say that to me. Yeah. But I'm sure he had many other great vintages. but 23 was warm and like kind of like the perfect temperature for them, like temperate but enough warmth. And for us, 23 was really cold, and we, most of the clusters had shattered because we had poor flowering, a lot of overcast conditions. It was really cold, and so pretty much our bin weights were down by 50% from the vineyards that we farm.
Okay.
So being super close to the coast, has its challenges with getting enough crop, especially when you're farming it yourselves. And the other thing is powdery mildew is a constant threat. This year's been really challenging in particular. Yeah. And we limit ourselves to spraying only organic things. So we usually start with like stylet oil and a biological in the early season. We'll do maybe a little bit of sulfur in the mid season, and then we spray things like Problad Verde, which is lupin extract, and cinnamon oil, and just kind of try and fight it as much as possible. But there are years like this year where, we're spraying every 7 days, and it's still there.
Yeah.
There's still a little bit of mildew. A very intelligent, smart, inspiring winemaker once told me if there's zero mildew, maybe you're spraying too much. So I'm okay with a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. Just a
This is a Scona. So this is where Ken lives with Abby, and they have been up there since the pandemic.
Okay.
They moved up there in 2020. He's been farming it since 2017, and he actually planted. It was originally 6 acres, around about 6 acres, and he planted another 7 acres.
Okay.
So it's the biggest site that we work with in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And what's funny is even though it's 13 acres, there's also 13 varieties planted. So we couldn't make it easy on ourselves.
Any more than...
Yeah. I want to see if I can name them off, but he has the Pinot Noir. He has Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Syrah, Sauvignon Blanc, Sangiovese, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, Aligoté. Did I say Chenin? He just grafted Negro Amaro over to more Aligoté. Cabernet Sauvignon, Gamay, and I think that's it. That might not be 13 varieties, but that's all I got.
Well, so not. Okay, so how much Chardonnay is there?
It makes like 2 to 3 tons of Chardonnay a year, and it's about an acre and some change of Chardonnay. Yeah. Okay. And made exactly the same way as the previous Chard. So light pressing, and this one has a little bit more like fullness to it, I think. And the 23, we picked this in October, early October, but it was such cold vintage for us, and our cellar is close to the ocean, close to the water, so it was really cold here. So by the time primary fermentation was kind of wrapping up in barrel, it was really cold in the cellar, and it just completely shut down. And we made like a little hot box for it. We warmed it up in a little heating blanket all winter long, and kind of like tried to keep it alive. And then the fermentation finally finished in July of 2024. So this went dry a year later.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty great wine.
Thank you.
I was looking at you guys' website, which is very informative with where all your vineyards are placed. But that was one of the things that struck me, is that maybe it's kind of one of the unique things to Santa Cruz Mountains is the size of the vineyards. And like you guys are farming half acre, 3/4 acre, 2 acre, 3 acre, 5 acre size plots. Besides the transportation, that must be tough to not be able to scale those vineyards up at all. But I was wondering, it must be kind of satisfying though, I guess, to have those little microclimates and a lot of those little pocket vineyards. Must be cool to see the different expressions though that each of them make.
Oh yeah,
in the wines.
It's really amazing. I would say, that's also a challenge with the Santa Cruz Mountains is how different the vineyards are depending on where they are. There's such a stark gradient of temperature as you go up the mountains because too low, so much humidity and you're never getting grapes right. And then as you go up, it just slowly gets warmer and warmer, on average. And so it's really cool to see things planted in certain places where, it's on the brink of whether it can get ripe or not. And yeah, if I had my way, I would single vineyard every vineyard that we that we farm because they all have something unique and special about them. And so, yeah, I would love to just bottle 2 barrels of that and 4 barrels of this and make like 10 single vineyard Chardonnays and 3 single vineyard Syrahs and 6 single vineyard Pinots. But I think people would be like, all right, enough's enough, man. You lost me.
Yeah, that's your economics training.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold off on doing that, but it's one of the things that feels super unique about the area, though. They're just those small vineyards with really unique microclimates and like their surroundings and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that. Yeah, it's mostly redwood forest, right?
Yeah.
And the Santa Cruz Mountains when it was originally planted in the 1860s, the Jarvis brothers were around. There was more acreage then than there is now.
Right.
And so there's all these little pocket vineyards and they're so spread out and they're totally unique, and singular. And in a lot of cases, you could be driving on the adjacent road and never know it's there because it's all redwoods. And then you have to like go up this little dirt road, go through this gate that doesn't work and you have to push it open. and then you get onto this like ridge line or this little clearing and there's a 4-acre vineyard there. And there's nothing around it. There's no other vineyards within, a vast majority of space.
Yeah.
So it's truly it's so singular.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like a blessing and a curse, right? Because there's Pinot Noir vineyards that, a perfect example is there's 2 Pinot Noir vineyards, Branciforte Ridge and Branciforte Creek, which we call Branciforte. One's right on Branciforte Creek, the other one's higher up on the ridge line. And they're kind of on the opposite sides of Happy Valley. And they're very close to where the Jarvis brothers originally planted their estate in the 1860s. But the wines couldn't be any more different.
Wow.
They're probably the 2 closest, there's a few other vineyards mixed in within a couple miles, but there's not that many vineyards there. And it's funny how different those 2 vineyards are, so yeah, just kind of, it's always perplexing too, how things ripen. Like you'd think by now we'd understand what's going to ripen first. But it's always different. I feel like there's different things that happen with the topography of the mountains.
Okay.
And how steep they are and the different ridge lines. So we haven't gotten an order yet where we're like, all right, we need to sample these few first. Because sometimes other ones ripen more quickly and sometimes more slowly. So
yeah, just seems to depend on the year, like what the fog is doing and things like that?
Yeah.
Every year?
Yeah, yeah. There's been a couple years, like Toyon Vineyard, it's a Pinot Noir vineyard that I farm. It's 3 acres of Pinot, and that's usually underneath the fog. It's usually very cold. And then, the fog burns off. And then Ascona is 2,500 feet elevation, and it's above the fog.
Yeah.
And it's usually much warmer up there.
Okay.
But there have been vintages where for whatever reason, it's colder up there and warmer, down at Toyon. That happens very infrequently, but it has happened a couple vintages.
You said Ken prefers to kind of be out in the vineyards, although he has some winemaking experience also, obviously. And then you're kind of you're making a lot of the wines, but also doing some farming. How do you guys split that up? Just kind of organically, or
it's like a
I
zone.
guess what's your point of view for that?
Yeah, totally.
That split.
Yeah, it's like a zone defense. We call it a zone defense.
Okay.
It's like, I mean, so Ken has one of the best palates of any viticulturist I've ever met, ever.
Okay.
He's an incredible palate. And, one of our favorite things to do is like blind taste, and just, go into tasting a wine with no preconceived notions. And so we do that a lot. And so I guess my point is he does come in here and taste barrels with me a lot. And we talk about the wines a lot. And we talk about, what things work together and what things don't. And we look at the fermentation notes together, and we're always kind of thinking about how we can make things better. And so we talk a lot, in the cellar. And so even though he is in the vineyard primarily, we do talk about vinification and winemaking together.
Yeah.
And then on the vineyard side of things, the vineyards that I farm are kind of geographically close to the winery.
Okay.
So I can get there fairly easy.
That's okay.
And there's 3 plots that I farm. They're all 3 of them are about 3.5 to 3 acres.
Okay.
So it's just under 10 acres total. And they're lower down on the mountains, easier for me to get to. And we talk all the time. Yeah. Ken and I, when it comes to figuring out like what we're gonna spray, when we're pruning, how we're pruning, what kind of, all the decision, we talk every day.
Yeah.
So, and he is very, very incredibly knowledgeable when it comes to vineyards and vines. I mean, we can be walking through the vineyard and he'll see like some random beetle of some sort and call out the like scientific name of it. And so he's a vine wizard. His Instagram handle is the Vine Shaman. Right. Yeah. And it's fitting.
Did I imagine a lot of these small vineyards you guys farm are sort of family vineyards and things like that, but did you have any like pushback as you're converting them to organic if they weren't before, or like how do you manage that? Like, hey, the vineyard might not look the same as it did. Yeah, is that something that comes up?
That is definitely something that comes up. Yeah. Especially for the folks that have been doing it a long time, and they have a lot of pride in what they do, and they absolutely should. They go, why would I? I've been doing this for 40 years. Some of the older vineyards, especially, I've been doing this way for 40. Why would I change now? And so that was more prevalent, I would say, when we were first starting to farm for ourselves and make wine for ourselves. As things have evolved, I would say people are more receptive.
Okay.
There's still things where it's like, hey, why do the under row, why is there green material there and why doesn't it look, all perfectly manicured? And I'm like, that's not necessary for making great wines. And in fact, like the glyphosate that you sprayed, anyways, I don't want to go down the glyphosate path right now, but yes.
It's understandable. Yeah. We've talked a lot about Chardonnay, but you also make some other wines like Pinot here.
Yeah. So we make Mostly Chardonnay and Pinot Noir because it does well here in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and we've leaned into that. And I love Chardonnay and Pinot, but we also make, so many things: Gamay, Syrah, Aligoté. But this Pinot is Branciforte. It's on Vine Hill, very close to where the Jarvis brothers originally planted their vineyards in the 1860s.
Yeah.
And then, Dave Wood planted this vineyard in '89.
Okay.
And it was for David Bruce originally. So it's all Pomard clone. It's about 3.5 acres. It's in this kind of really chalky, sandy bowl with a kind of a ridgeline that wraps around it.
Okay.
It's where Ken and Abby got married.
Oh, cool.
No one lives there.
Okay.
There's no houses just a couple trailers.
Yeah.
Actually, one of our Ken's interns, one of his vineyard foremen, actually live in one of the trailers.
Okay, cool.
So Rory lives there and manages the vineyard now.
Okay.
But Jeff Emery made this wine from, I want to say 99 to 2022.
Okay.
And Ken farmed it for Jeff in like the early 2000s. And then, we both had made the wine for Jeff.
Yeah.
And so Jeff, moved to another Pinot Noir site, and he said, "Hey, I want you guys to make it." He's like, "It's amazing. You guys should make it." And we're like, "We would love to. This is a huge honor." And so we're super excited to be making this wine.
Yeah. Really. Yeah, it feels just like what a Pinot should feel like. It's like so complex, but kind of weightless.
Thank you so much. Yeah. This is so one of the things that we really wanted to aim for with Pinot Noir is using a lot of stem inclusion.
Yeah.
And the goal was to kind of subdue the fruit and have a little bit more spice, a little more florality. And so in 2018, when we first started farming Toyon Vineyard and making that wine, we got about 5 tons off the vineyard. Okay. And so we were able to split each of those tons into a 1-ton fermenter. And we did 0% whole cluster, 25% whole cluster, 50%, 75, and 100. Okay. And then pressed them separately, barreled down separately, just so we could see over time what we liked the best. Yeah. And I mean, this is like relatively anecdotal because it's one vineyard. You're right. but at least we could kind of see what we liked the best. And I think what we found was the 75 to 100% whole cluster was darker. It had more floral aspects. It had less kind of over-the-top fruit flavors and more tannin. And so we were like, we're going for this. Yeah. Yeah. And we want, that's what we want. So, nice. So we aim to do that in, 75 to 100% whole cluster in the Pinots and the Syrahs. Yeah. And most of them are 100%. Okay. So, yeah.
So you just base it on what the vineyard's looking like that year, what the fruit's looking like as far as the percentage?
Yeah. So we one of the cool things about having Ken in the vineyard or myself in the vineyard so much is that we're able to kind of guide the vines along to suit the winemaking that we want to have. And so one of the things that we do is we prune fairly aggressively. We do a lot of, cane pruning, and the crop is already kind of minimized by the climate. Yeah. So that it gives the stems a chance to lignify and ripen more parallel to the berries. And so we actually have lignification coming up the cane and then into the stem, and then when we pick it, all of the guys out there picking with us, we train them to actually cut as close to the cane as possible. Okay. And so it does take a little bit longer for sure, but the goal is to get that lignification on the stem in the fermenter, and that lignification acts like a cork, and you don't get green sap kind of backflowing into the juice.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's huge for us. That's really,
Wow, yeah.
yeah. And yeah, because like the thing that we want from whole cluster is not like the green stem element. The green stem is just the vector to keep the fruit intact and get all the pretty aromatics from that. So yeah, that's what we do. And then in the fermenter, we're very gentle with kind of how we macerate the fruit.
Okay.
Lots of pump overs, and we have like a watering can that we kind of keep the cap wet without, moving too much fruit or breaking too many stems. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Ken, from his years of vineyard management, must have a pretty good handle on a lot of the cool, unique sites around Santa Cruz Mountains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
For
he does.
different fruits.
Yeah, he does. He's like a good guy to know. He gets, during harvest and during the growing season, everyone's calling him like, hey, what's this? And I have fruit available. Could you find a home for it? And so he's a busy man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he has his pulse on on all the vineyards around the, I shouldn't say all, but many vineyards around the Santa Cruz Mountains.
Yeah.
So.
And then how many single vineyard Pinots do you tend to make in a given year?
We make too many.
Okay.
we make like 3 or 4, depending on the vintage, and like a lot of times we'll just pick our favorite punch-in of Pinot Noir, and of a specific vineyard, and that'll be our single vineyard.
Okay.
And that'll go straight to our club, and it'll sell out with the club, and then I keep a couple cases because and really the only reason we do that is selfishly I want to be able to taste that wine as it ages and develops.
Yeah.
And you don't get that in the Santa Cruz Mountains blend. It's all the vineyards together. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do Branciforte, we do Toyon, Ascona, and Meadow Ridge single vineyard Pinots. Yeah, and then we essentially pick our favorite few barrels, and then everything else is the rest of the Pinot is declassed into the Santa Cruz Mountains blend. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're making, a pretty wide range, I guess, of like elevation differences in those single vineyard Pinot, because the Toyon, that's pretty close to the water here, right?
Totally. Yeah. It's like 450 feet elevation. So and then just up from that, and actually fairly close, is Branciforte. And that's like 750, 800. And then, continuing to go up, you get to Ascona at 2,500. So like, even though they're all Santa Cruz Mountains, it's 2,500 feet of elevation is a very different place than 450 down by the water.
Yeah.
So, so the wines are like very different. I would say Ascona has like so much more like giving fruit aspects to it, whereas the Toyon is always like more austere and has more like savory kind of like mushroom forest floor elements to it. Hard to believe they're from the same AVA.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. They're almost like each on the edge of it, huh? Like one about like kind of the lower elevation side of what could be the Santa Cruz Mountains. I guess, right? Yeah.
It's pretty much on the border. And if it was on the east side, it'd be too low, actually.
Okay.
Because on the east side, you have to be, I think like there's a couple of, I think it's like basically 600 feet, 650.
Yeah.
There's a few places that dip lower than that, but for the most part, you have to be, kind of higher up on the inland side. So, yeah, no, it's pretty wild. And I would say Ascona, I wouldn't want to go any more east.
Okay.
And have Pinot Noir than Ascona, because Ascona is situated kind of right at the top of the San Lorenzo Valley on Skyline. So it does get coastal air kind of funneled up from the valley and over Bonnie Doon to the vineyard. Whereas as soon as you go a little bit farther east and kind of drop down the other side of the spine of the mountains, and you're facing the valley, you get more of that. You're blocked from the ocean wind, and then you get that kind of like valley floor heat that kind of comes up the mountains, and the temperature is way higher and warmer.
Yeah. So you guys work with some vineyards that you don't farm. What's it sort of take for you to make that commitment with someone else's farming? I guess just given how deeply involved you are in the farming of your own vineyards and so many parcels.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say there's been a couple things. The vineyards that we don't farm locally are usually the property owner has been farming it and plans to continue farming it. But in that case, Ken typically either is already the consultant there, or we have like pretty close, we conversate a lot with the grower, and they're on board with kind of like what we can communicate about it really well because we actually do farm and we know what's realistic and we don't have this kind of what's the word I'm looking for, but this like kind of over romanticized approach with it. Like the classic winemaker that's
reality, kind of the reality.
Yeah, we understand the intricacies and the realities of what it really takes to farm the grapes. And so, so we can have a conversation with them that's like productive and we're on the same page.
Yeah.
And we can go out there and we can, see it as much as we like. And so, the people, like for instance, Mindigo Ridge, we're going to make Mindigo Ridge Chardonnay this year.
Yeah.
And Dave, he's an incredible farmer, and the vineyard is immaculate. He has been farming not organically, but so we had a meeting with him and we're like, hey, like these are the things, if we're going to make it, like we do need it to be organic. And that's kind of just that's our line of how we want things done. That's our line in the sand, I guess.
Yeah.
But and he was totally receptive to it, and we had a great conversation. And he's like, "Let's do it." And so to be a part of that with him is like the coolest thing that we can be a part of. And like we'll be there every step of the way, because it's a big transition, right? And so we'll work very closely with him. I'm sure he's going to do a great job, but it's scary, right? It's a big change.
Yeah.
And so that's a really cool thing for us. And that's a vineyard that we're not technically farming, but we're very, I've talked to him, like I was on the phone with him last week, and I'm really excited for that vineyard.
Yeah. Awesome.
The other thing, we have bought some fruit from Santa Rita. We had really terrible fires in 2020. And that was the first moment where I was like, we gotta have like some way of making something if there's a natural disaster of some sort. So we've outsourced a little bit outside of the Santa Cruz Mountains with vineyards that we don't farm. But the farming, lots of conversations about the quality of the farming and what we're spraying and what the leaf pulling looks like, or the shoot removal, and lots of things like that. So
it's just involved, and I guess kind of acting as like a sounding board, or like if a vineyard is being converted to organics. And
totally, and I'm sure he's we've spoken a lot, and I'm not worried for Dave at all converting that block. I think he's converting that block first before potentially the whole vineyard. I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all about him, but I understand why it would be scary, because you have all these tools in a conventional system that you kind of are like, all right, I'm foregoing the use of these things. And it's your livelihood. It's, it takes a lot of time to get from, through the pruning and the, canopy management and to the end stage of having fruit available, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Should we taste Syrah?
Sure.
All right, so this is Ascona Syrah, 2023. So back up to 2,500 feet of elevation. This is part of the original planting. There was only 3 rows originally. And then our first vintage making this was 17.
Okay.
And we you know, after, I think in 19 we grafted. So we took cuttings from the original 3 rows and grafted 3 rows of Sangiovese right next to it over to Syrah.
Okay. Okay. That smells amazing.
In 23, we had such poor flowering. We usually get 4 barrels off our 6 rows.
Okay.
Maybe 5 if we're lucky.
Yeah.
And we got 3 barrels total in 23. Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
So smaller crop, but I really love, like, I'm glad there was less crop because it was a cold vintage. And so we got the concentration we needed.
Yeah, some of these you must be on the verge of where it can ripen. Some of these years, I would imagine.
Yeah. 23 was very scary for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was October 3rd and 4th of 23 where we had like a little heat spike.
Yeah.
And I was dancing. I was so excited. I was like, oh, we're gonna pick grapes.
Yeah.
We're gonna pick Syrah. We're gonna pick all these grapes if there had been, you know, the opposite would have been like, a little bit of rain had come in. I don't know that it would have been like, I think Jeff said 1982 was kind of like that, where there was an early rain and there was a lot of fruit that either got picked really underripe or wasn't picked at all. So yeah, we were a bit concerned in 23 for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's it looking? How's everything looking for you this year, 25? I mean, another pretty cool year.
Yeah, really cool year. I would say 25 is a little bit warmer than what we had in 23.
Okay.
So it's coming along. I'm not super concerned yet. My big concerns at this juncture being early August, is that we'll have a really intense heat wave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though we're on the coast, we still have bad heat waves when they come, and so, it'll be, over the hill it'll be extremely hot, and then but here for the grapes that we're growing, it's also extremely hot.
Yeah.
So so in 22 we had kind of a really temperate growing season all summer long.
Yeah.
And then we had this heat wave in early September.
Right.
That just, it was like, all right, how many vineyards can we pick in 72 hours?
Okay.
So.
Do you make the Syrah similar to sort of the Pinot protocol?
Yeah. Yeah, actually almost exactly the same. Syrah is 100% whole cluster, minimal punch downs, a lot of kind of pump overs and, kind of like wetting the cap. Yeah. And then, we always do a pied de couve as well with the reds.
Okay.
Because I feel like the reds, the native ferments can go more volatile in the beginning. I think it helps just pulling off a little, like a carboy of juice, warming it up and letting it kick off. Or even like sometimes we'll actually go and harvest a bucket of fruit.
Right.
In the vineyard.
A few days before.
And just let it get hot in the vineyard in the sun. And then, just add that to the grapes as we're, driving down to the winery and boom, ferment kicks off. And as long as it smells and tastes good, we feel pretty safe about it.
Yeah.
Confident about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I feel like the Syrah is like really delicate. I would say this is kind of surprisingly, even though 23 was cold, I feel like the concentration here is a little bit more than other vintages. But I think it's still like a really delicate, kind of light on its feet, high acid expression of Syrah.
Yeah, it's a real beautiful version.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, I guess, about like Santa Cruz Mountains in general. I feel like it still doesn't maybe get the, I don't know if respect is the right word, but just like it's maybe not as forward in people's minds as it should be. Like it's been a wine region. It's been producing like amazing grapes and wines since like the 1860s. I mean, obviously I haven't tasted those, but like I've heard good things. You know, like
likewise.
it was like well known then for producing great wines, and you know, you can grow like world class like Chardonnay and Pinot and Cabernet Sauvignon in like a pretty small geographic area also. And so I guess any thoughts on that? Or like, you know, I mean,
oh man, I think about this all the time. Yeah, no, totally. It's really interesting. It's a challenging place to visit, and I think that's maybe one of the biggest impacts as to why it hasn't. You're totally right. I mean, I think the quality is amazing as far as wines, you know, the wines that it produces, but it doesn't get the acclaim or the visitation that other places get in California. It's kind of glanced over.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there's a few things that play into that, and I think one of them is it's really hard to get from vineyard to vineyard, estate to estate.
Okay.
You can only, the roads are windy and tight, and so you really have to like plan it out, and they're spread out as well.
Yeah.
You know, to go from Reese, for instance, to Mount Eden, it takes a long time.
Yeah.
You know, and even but like geographically they're fairly close, but you have to like wind around down the mountain and then back up, you know, kind of a thing.
There's nothing as the crow flies.
No
roads.
Yeah, once we have like
Skytram or something.
Yeah, Skytram or so, you know, Jovies, you know, little like helicopter taxis. It's going to be a great place to visit. No, but yeah, that's one. The other thing is, you know, you go to the Anderson Valley or you go to, you know, Sonoma or Napa. You're on the main highway and you can see all the vineyards. You can see all the wineries. It's fairly easy, you know. Being able to see it from the road, I think, is impactful. There's so many vineyards and wineries that you can't see from the road, and you never know it exists unless you were searching for it.
Right.
So that's an impact. And then a lot of the wine, there's 1,700 acres. Don't quote me on that, but it's kind of like around that.
Okay.
Whereas Napa has many, many more acres. So
Sure.
just the volume of wine that makes it onto into distribution and into restaurants is much less.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's a secret. It's a little,
I guess maybe like you're saying, like some of those, like you have all these like small vineyards, so you don't have maybe a vineyard, like there's relatively few vineyards that a lot of producers are pulling fruit from, maybe. Like Napa, you know, like Tokelon, for example, like a dozen or something or more producers pulling from that.
Yeah. Or
and here you're like, oh, I wish we could scale up like this 3/4 acre vineyard.
And you're like, oh shoot, we had chatter, and so now we're getting even less fruit. You know, it's kind of it's a very different kind of dynamic with the vineyards. Ascona is the only vineyard that's kind of like, you know, the Tokelon example is like there's a lot of great winemakers that get to all contribute to making the wines of that vineyard. But it's not as common for sure.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's just you really have to be kind of a wine nerd, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, or just want to come here and experience the wines here, and maybe do other things as well, like go to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people come here and they go to the beach and hang out, go to the boardwalk, and then they also wine taste.
Yeah.
Because it is like kind of more challenging to like taste at a lot of places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything we've kind of like glanced over or missed? Is there anything that you'd like to talk about?
I don't know. I think that was good. I mean, that was like my first or second. That was my second podcast. So
Okay.
I'm stoked.
Okay, great. I mean,
yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say like where people can find the wines. Or
Oh, that's a good
tasting
one.
room or
Yeah,
anything,
Thank you for reminding me.
Put on your selling hat for.
I should probably say that, shouldn't I?
I mean, they have the internet also, but
yeah, the internet's a good place to start. So you can find our wines at our tasting room. Our tasting room is open to the public on the weekends in Santa Cruz, 328 Ingalls Street. And we do like jazz nights. We try and make the space fun. We have a grand piano in the tasting room, and we have different pop-ups. We try and have local chefs come and cook. So we really try and like make a fun, like kind of space, community space in the winery. And then, the wines can be purchased on our website. We have a wine club. That always helps.
yeah.
I hope people come and visit us for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for listening today. The Madson wines are a great representation of the Santa Cruz Mountains. They work with varied vineyard sites, all carefully farmed, and have equally amazing winemaking. You can find their wines at madsonwines.com or follow them on Instagram at madsonwines. I also did an episode on the Jarvises and the beginning of Vine Hill viticulture with episode 76 if you'd like to explore more of the history of Santa Cruz Mountains winemaking. Please follow the podcast on wherever you're listening and the Instagram at Indie Wine Podcast, and feel free to email indiewinepodcast@gmail.com with comments, questions, or feedback. If you're enjoying the podcast, I'd love it if you told a friend or wine lover about it and help spread the word. Rating, reviewing, or donating at patreon.com/indiewinepodcast helps a lot too. It all goes to offsetting podcast expenses, keeps it ad-free, available for everyone, and allows for more episodes. We'll be back soon with another episode. Have a good one.